Welcome to Leslie's Lovin' Oven. I'm Leslie, and today I'm going to share my recipe for a rustic plum tart. For today's recipe, you'll need some black plums. I already have 5 plums, black, cut up in the bowl here. You'll need a little bit of granulated sugar, a little bit of cinnamon, and a little bit of cornstarch. And when I make a plum tart, I like to use almond extract. So right here, I'm cutting up the last plum. I've halved it, pitted it, and now I'm cutting it into fourths. I'm going to add it to the bowl, and then we'll add some of the other spicing. Okay, the last plum went into the bowl, and what I like to do is taste the plums so I know how much sugar I'll be adding. I tasted these, they were very ripe and sweet, so I'm only going to be adding 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar. I'm going to put that in the bowl right there, and to that I'm going to add a half of a teaspoon of cornstarch, and that will help to thicken up the plum tart when the juices start to bubble, so it will give it a nice consistency. To that, we're going to add a half of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Get that in. And then I like to add a half a teaspoon of almond extract. You could also add vanilla if you don't prefer almond. I think the almond pairs very nicely with the black dark plums. Okay. And to that, we're going to add our secret ingredient. Can't forget that. Let's add some love. Smells good. Okay. So we'll give that a stir. Cover all the plums and get them tossed around in there. It's very easy. Pretty simple. And that's basically it. Now we will use pie dough, so we'll be moving to that in just a minute. Today I'm using homemade pie dough, and I'll share the recipe on the blog. I like to use the homemade pie dough for the rustic tart. Certainly if you are not adventurous to make the pie dough or you don't have time, feel free to use a store-bought crust, and you would be using 1 disc, and you would be rolling it out, unrolling it onto your cookie sheet lined with parchment paper, and the oven is heating at 375 degrees right now. So I placed my pie dough on the cookie sheet, and it looks a little bit uneven, but it is rustic. That's what I love about this. And now I'm going to mound up the filling in the center of the pie dough, leaving about a 2-inch border. Okay. So there we go, just putting these any which way, kind of putting them in the center. If you sense that maybe you have too much filling, you can save some and use them with some yogurt or something like that. If you think that maybe you have too many, because you do want to leave a 2-inch border to fold it up. Okay, so there we go, almost there. Smells wonderful with the almond extract, and this is delicious with vanilla ice cream or even just a little dusting of powdered sugar. It's a very nice dessert. Definitely our favorite in summer after going to some of the farmers markets and seeing the beautiful plums. Okay, maybe a couple more. I think I'm going to make it, so I will not have any left over, which is even better. The tricky part will be to just quickly fold up the crust and then pull away from the parchment paper, but that's why we use it. And it kind of guides you, and then you can just peel it back. Okay, this is looking wonderful. Just kind of press it and then gently pull back. And you would do this same technique if you were using the store-bought. And you can see it's coming together to kind of form a loose but rustic frame for these gorgeous dark colored plums. And the plums are glistening They're very juicy. This is going to be delicious. So one more thing to do before we get it into the oven. We're going to brush it with a little beaten egg. Okay, so I just finished beating one small egg, and now I'm going to brush the sides of the crust with the egg mixture, and then we're going to sprinkle some granulated sugar there to give it a nice crispy shiny edge. Okay, a little bit more right there. There we go. Brushing this last section. Great. Okay. Alrighty, and now I'm just going to take a little bit more of this granulated sugar and just kind of sprinkle it right up to the edge like that. There we go, and one more. This is just looking so nice. Okay. This is going into the oven at 375 degrees for about 35 to 40 minutes. I'll check it at that time, and if the crust is golden and it's bubbling, we know it's ready. Depending on your oven, you may need 5 more minutes. The plum tart came out of the oven after 35 minutes, and you can see it got golden brown around the edge of the crust. This is a good tip. My crust was a little too thin right here because it was homemade, and I rolled it out a little too thin there, and some of the juices just escaped and caused some of the juices to leak around the side of the crust. So it might be a little thinner there when I cut it, but it'll taste great, so it doesn't bother me. And next I'll show you how to plate this up and serve it. I'm so excited to try this. I'm going to cut a slice. I did move it to a different plate, and this is a nice one because it turns, so you can swirl it around. And I'm going to take a little section right here with the crust, and I have some vanilla ice cream that I'm going to serve this with. I like this on the parchment paper because it is rustic, and it kind of makes it look old-fashioned. I'll just slide it off. Oh, look at that. I love the color. I love how the dark plums get even darker when they cook. And I'm going to put a little scoop of vanilla ice cream right here that I have on top. Nice. And I do like to add a little bit of powdered sugar just for the effect. So. Getting a little bit of the crust with the plums, a little bit of the ice cream. Oh my gosh. That is delicious. Thank goodness for plums. That is really tasty. I love the almond extract. It totally complements the juiciness of the plums. And the crust, even though it was a little messy there, delicious. This is an all butter crust, and I will also share the recipe for the homemade pie dough on the blog. So until next time, I hope you have the chance to try this. It's a wonderful summer dessert. I hope you enjoy it with somebody special. And until next time, bon appetit.